motor that's been designed and tuned by Mr. Gamroth. That's what you're listening to. Beautiful. Ooh. Sounds pretty good. All right, let's park it right there and let me get you a mic. Nick, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Well, let me see if we can get your mic turned up. Let's see here.
Test.
There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Nice to have you back at Werks Reunion. Last year we had the Golf livery one. The year before that we had the red one, I believe.
Yeah, so it's been
it's a tradition.
It is, and even with Amelia Island earlier this year, we had our exoskeleton out there. You guys do a great event on the East Coast, so we had to come back out to the Monterey Car Week.
So you guys happy that we were able to get this vehicle out for you guys to see? I think they're pretty excited about it.
I think so.
I said, are you excited about this car that we brought for you?
Yeah.
There you go. So, we've seen the exoskeleton one at Werks Reunion, Amelia Island. This one's painted, obviously, so what are we looking at?
So again, this is a Guntherwerks remastered 993. Essentially, the car starts off as a 95 through 98 Porsche 911 Carrera C2. From there, the whole body is stripped down, and essentially the chassis is all that's left. Every body panel on this car is carbon fiber. This car weighs 2,600 pounds. Roughly 800 pounds lighter than a factory 993. The car is 7 inches wider front and rear, which is able to run a 18 by 11 in the front, which is massive on a 295, and a big 18 by 13 in the rear. Car pulls 1.2 lateral Gs, all mechanical grip. Out back, we've got a 4-liter naturally aspirated air-cooled flat six built by Rossport Racing, Jeff Gamroth, who is out here today, so if you guys see him, say hello. Pushing 435 horsepower, so power to weight is 354 horsepower per ton. So I talk these numbers, let's put them into context.
Well, let me just forget the numbers. I was fortunate enough to be able to drive this. I just drove it on the street, so I treated it with care, knowing how valuable it is. But it is amazing how quickly this motor revs, how sticky the car is going through Laurel's Canyon at the speed limit, of course. And I can tell you that, people just know that it is something special. And I guess the one when I was in Laurel's grade, that was the Golf livery, so it was kind of loud in terms of color and such. But the exhaust is, man, it's intoxicating how it sounds when you just blip the throttle. The gears are nice and short, and it's just a fun ride. Forget the numbers. I mean, there are performance numbers, and you can measure 0 to 60, but at the end of the day, driving this just puts the biggest smile on your face.
Well, I think that's, what Porsche's always stood by, is that the driving experience is unbelievable. And this car being the last of the air-cooled 911s, the initial company ethos was to make the ultimate air-cooled 911. And the driving experience is just visceral. The sound, the shifts, the feel, the steering input, every input is just pushed to the ultimate degree, and it's fantastic.
What I like most about it, we just had Petrolicious up on stage, and we talk about driving tastefully, and I love what you've done to respect the 993 in its original form, but you've added your tasteful twist to it all, from the lights to the fenders to every curve on it is not so drastic that takes away from its original form.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you go through the car, you'll always see other design elements through Porsches through the eras. A couple of little things, if you guys ever look at the front bumper or the lower air intakes, Carrera GT, the 72 RS rear ducktail. The rear bumper was designed off the 997 GT3. So a lot of design elements. Correct, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it culminates all into one beautiful full carbon body 993.
Now, don't all rush, but the carbon fiber that is exposed, that is the carbon fiber, and I can tell you that it's painstakingly placed so that all of the pattern matches, and if you get a chance later, take a look at it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the whole body is carbon, like I mentioned earlier. The exposed carbon on the hood and the roof matches the weave. It goes straight through the body line, so it's very, very, very time consuming to lay all that up, and it's all pre-preg, autoclave carbon, so the strongest carbon in the industry that we're able to use on these applications.
Talk about the interior, because it's also plentiful in terms of carbon on the inside as well.
It is. So kind of a little bit more of a history of who we are, and to go on with the carbon. A sister company is a company called Vorsteiner. I don't know if anybody's familiar. We've been in the composite industry for over 17 years now. And so the interior is a full carbon inlay. So we have a full carbon rear seat delete, which is quite the design element. My personal favorite are our carbon bucket seats, which we do in-house. In addition, we do a full carbon flooring inlay. It's made up of 9 different pieces that have to fit together perfectly for it to all sit in there. This particular customer opted for our mocha over a dark chocolate to match his bronze wheels, which is a nice little touch. It's a little different than what we typically find on a typical white with black or something along those lines.
So talk about that in terms of the customer's influence on how their car will turn out.
Well, so one thing is we're only building 25 examples of these, and each one's uniquely different. No two can have the same interior or exterior color, so the customers have the options to select different paints. We actually name the cars by the paints. So this is our Winchester white. It's a 3-stage pearl, so under different lines you really see the sparkle on it. But the customers can choose the pearl, they can go with a single stage paint, or we can even do a fully exposed carbon, which we had on display at Amelia Island.
Now, will the cars be, let's say another customer likes this color, could they duplicate it, or no, you're just only doing one in Winchester white?
I would prefer not to. We'd actually do something in a different variant, and obviously with a different interior color. Okay. We really want to make sure that each individual car is uniquely different and known by what they have in their package and so forth.
So if you can open the bonnet, for those of you that haven't seen this engine, it's just as beautiful underneath that bonnet. Yes, Guntherwerks.
So the heart of the motor. This is a 4-liter naturally aspirated air-cooled flat 6. Like I mentioned earlier, Rawsport Racing builds all of our motors and drivetrains. It's a G50 6-speed with custom gearing. Kind of like we was talking about earlier, the shifts of the car. So our first, second, and third is shorter than what a typical gearbox on a 993, and then fourth, fifth, and sixth is a little bit longer. It's individual throttle bodies. We run a 997 GT3 intake plenum, a Motec dual mapped ECU system. So as you guys look at the engine there, go peek in the interior, and just in front of the shifter, you'll see a sport touring button. The sport button will actually open the exhaust valves, and it will add an additional 15 horsepower to the motor. So it actually changes the tune and dynamics of the car.
I may or may not have used that button once or twice.
I think the button was on the whole time.
It was just in my head.
Another cool little thing about this is that there's nothing running off the accessory belts. Everything for our power steering, electric AC system, and even our nose lift system. Yes, the car has a full hydraulic nose lift system. Is all up front, so we're able to shift about roughly 200 to 300 pounds from the rear of the motor all the way up front. And we're only using 1 horsepower to power all the additional accessories.
All right, if it's too hot for you.
So if a customer decides to go through with the build, how long is the process?
Typical process is about 7 to 9 months, depending on your options. That exoskeleton, the fully exposed.
That one took a little bit longer, I bet.
About 3 months to build that body, just the body alone.
And the braking system I see is not stock.
No. So we have a Brembo GTS set up on this. It's a 365 in the front and 345s in the rear. We also have a carbon ceramic option with a Brembo GTR nickel-plated caliper as well. So a couple different options if the customer wants to do something different.
Now there are a couple of Guntherwerks cars here this week.
We are. We have roughly four cars that are up here this weekend. We'll have our exoskeleton that I've been mentioning on display at the concept lawn at Pebble on Sunday. In addition, we'll be showcasing our cars at our private estate over the next couple days.
Okay. Would you be open to take maybe a couple of questions from the audience?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Does anybody have questions about the car? Or have we covered it so thoroughly that you're good? Arturo.
Number 6. This is your 6th car that you made.
7 cars. So we've been in production for a year and a half now. The initial was 4 cars per year, and then now we're up to, said, okay, let's do 8 cars this year.